Hello guys, this is UltraBizWeb bringing you a tutorial on how to basically set up a Centos 6.4 virtual machine with the Oracle VM Virtualbox program. It's produced by Oracle. You can download it at virtualbox.org. It runs on many different platforms, not just Windows, but of course Linux. We have also runs on Mac OS, which is very cool. So first we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open it up here. I've already created one here for earlier. It was an earlier video, so I'm not going to use that one. But anyway, so I'm going to click new here. We're going to call this Centos 6.4 64-bit version 2. And look, it already selected Linux for me and Red Hat, but I want the 64-bit version of Red Hat, so we want to select 64-bit there. And next, I'm going to select for this 2 gig of RAM, so slide over here to about 2 gig. And then next, I will create a virtual hard drive file now, so I will hit create. Here we can select the file type. We have VirtualBox native here, but you can also use VMware's format, the VMDK file format, the Windows format, whatever your virtual environment is you're planning on using in production. It was probably the one that you'd want to select. If you use Proxmox like me, you'll probably want to select the QCOW file format. That's what I like to use. So I'm going to select QCOW down here. It just makes it easier when you're importing into your production environment. Next, we're going to select, I'm going to do a 20 gig drive. I'm going to select the folder because I want a different folder than what I'm in. Okay, there we are. Okay, that looks fine. We'll just do that, version 2. And where am I here? And let's see, virtual, and that's fine. I already messed that up. 64-bit version 2, and then hit save, and there we are, and then create, and there we are. Now what I need to do is select the correct ISO to load. I've already downloaded this ISO from Centos.org's website. Basically, it's an ISO format. I downloaded the minimal install, so we're going to go in here under empty here on the controller. For the CD-ROM, hit this here and load the ISO that I have already downloaded. Of course, if you want to run 32 bits, you go through the same process, but you select 32-bit for everything and choose a 32-bit ISO. Alright, then I'm going to hit check my network real quick. I'm going to go down here to select network. I don't want to use NAT, and so I'm going to use bridged adapter instead, because it makes it easier, in my opinion, to do communication between your virtual machine and your desktops or other servers in your environment. Also in production environment, it makes it easier, so that's why I'm using the bridged adapter instead of the NAT. So I'm going to go select that, Intel Pro T. I want to try to use the server one version here to simulate that one, and then hit OK, and then everything should be set. Alright, so we have storage, there's my ISO, there's my network. Let's go ahead and start up the virtual machine. Alright, it's going to say install or upgrade an existing system. That's the one, first one is the one we want. And it's going to load up the installation for us. Make this bigger so we can kind of see maybe. Actually, let's switch to full screen. If you noticed here, the control key is automatically the host key on your keyboard, so you can go between full and other screens. So let's go to full screen. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip the checking installation media because that's not necessary. And now it should run through, and there we are. And this is the installation screen. It's showing us a GUI since we have enough RAM to run it. Next, English, if that's what your language is. Next, keyboard, English, and next. Now we have a choice of a basic and a specialized storage. Specialized storage is if you're in an environment with a NOS or SAN. You can install to some fiber channel, iSCSI mounts, whatever you want. Since we're not doing that, it's basic storage here, so we're next. It's going to ask me if I want to delete the virtual disk stuff that was on there. Yes, of course. Apply my choices. Hit yes. Host name, we're going to select, I'm just going to do VPS 37.htwebhost.info. Of course, if this is a subdomain or domain, you want to make sure you set this properly for your production environment. Otherwise, you'll have a hard time pinging your host and communicating with your host. So we're going to go ahead and configure the network. I'm going to go ahead and configure it because I want to be able to not use DHCP. I want to manually set my IP. So I will add a new IP address, one that's not used on my network. And we'll use 34. That sounds good. Net mask is of course going to be 255s. And my gateway is of course my router gateway. DNS servers, I'm going to set to my router, but you can set it to any DNS that you pretty much want. I recommend either OpenDNS or Google's DNS servers work. I had real good success with the OpenDNS servers. The 208.67.222.222 is one of the main OpenDNS servers you can use. Basically, any DNS you pretty much want, even your own DNS if you so choose. And then apply. And now it should be on there. So I'm going to close and check it again just to make sure that it was saved. And there we are. Looks good. Alright, next. I'm in New York, so that is my time zone. Select your time zone as needed. But I am in the Eastern time zone, so I will be using New York. Root password is super important here that you select a root password that is either a combination of lowercase, uppercase, and special characters. If the new feature that seems to be pretty prevalent in some of the new distros is if you select a weak password, like let me show you here, it will tell you that it's a weak password and that if you want to use it anyway. So we need to make sure that the password is of course secure. And then next down here. It lets me go to next. There we go. There we go. Okay. Here we are going to use all current space. We have a couple different options for partitioning layout. You can actually now, I guess, shrink a file system. I haven't really tried it, or use free space on an existing file system to create information. The create custom layouts, if you want to create custom partition layout for your swap, if you want a big nice swap file, you can set that in there. You can set pretty much everything that you want to set. If you want to do RAID 10, you can set up a RAID 10, software RAID 10, which would require 4 hard disks. Basically, it's more advanced layout. But we're just going to use all the space. Of course, encrypt file system will encrypt your file system for you, but I would not necessarily recommend this, for this type of environment. I will write the changes to the disk. just use Control F to go out the full screen mode. So what we'll do is we'll pause the video here, and then we'll come back and I'll show you some more about the post installation. So a couple things that I ran into when doing it. Alright guys, we're back. Now let's see here. Alright, so it's completed, so I will now reboot this system. Come on now. I was going to go through and review the virtual machine for me. I might actually need to power it off because we might want to go ahead and just take the oh, I guess I don't need to. There we go. So we're booting this up, and now I should be able to log into it with my username and password, which is root, and then of course the password that I set up earlier. Now let's see if we have a network interface using the ifconfig command, and just like I thought, we do not. Now what happened here is that the CentOS is not detecting our bridged Ethernet adapter like it's supposed to do. So what we need to do is actually make it so that it will detect it, and I have a link here. Let's see if we can, there we go. This is the site right here. Superuser.com is where I found the answer to the problem. If you scroll down with the first green check mark, this guy here pretty much is spot on with what you need to do. Basically, the first thing which I'm going to go ahead and cover is we're going to need to go into this directory here and delete this file right here, this 70 persistent net rules file. And then we'll need to go ahead and reboot. Now this, you also will probably have to do this if you move your virtual machine to, say, a VMware environment, or you move it to a Proxmox environment. Anywhere that you move it, you will have to basically go through these steps so that your networking will work properly. So first thing I'm going to do is change directory to where the file is located. Then I'm going to issue an ls command. And let's see, let's go ahead and open this up so we can see it better. So ls here, and there's the file right there, the 70 persistent -net rules file. I will remove the file using rm. And what you can do is also hit the tab key on your keyboard, and it will help you autofill some of the requirements there. Alright, and hit enter. It'll ask me, am I sure I want to delete it? I'm going to go ahead and hit yes, and now the file is no longer there. Now what I need to do now is go ahead and reboot the machine, the virtual machine. So I'm going to issue the shutdown command, -r now, -r for reboot now. Hit enter, and the virtual machine is now rebooting. Now what we're going to do also, what I wanted to mention is while it's rebooting there, is that we also need to make sure in this file that I'm going to be editing soon that the MAC address here matches your config file for your MAC address in this file right here. Because if it doesn't, you're going to have some issues. Alright, and there's also some other things in this file that need to be turned on, okay, in the settings, which we're going to cover. Alright, so I'm back here now. I'm going to minimize this so I can see a little bit. Log back in. And I'm going to use the VI editor. So I'm going to type VI, and I'm going to do the full length directory to the file that I am going to edit. Just a quick deal about editing config files. If you're unsure of anything, actually what you can actually do first is make a copy of your config file. That way if something happens and we mess up something, we can copy the file back. So what I'm going to do first is make a copy of the config file. This has saved me more headaches more than once. CF up there 02 my root file, and I'm going to call the file ifconfig-eth0.bak. If you guys can see that. Yeah. So what this is going to do is this will copy the config file into my root directory for the network interface, so that if something should go wrong and I mess it up, we can copy the file back and, you know, be back to right where we were. Now what I'm going to do now is go ahead and edit the file. Now what you can use in most Linux environments, and Unix for that matter too, is you can use up and down arrow keys to cycle through previous commands, which is very helpful if you don't want to save on typing and everything. So if you want to save on typing, then you can use those commands. So I'm going to do this, and see, it just saved me a little bit of time. So I'm going to go back, VI, to edit the file, and there's the file. Now what we need to do here in this file is I need to edit a few things. So the first thing I'm going to turn off, or actually on, is going to be this on boot equals no. So what we need to do is go ahead in here, move your arrow keys down to there, hit insert once on your keyboard. It should be showing it. Let me maximize it. There we go. So it says insert down at the bottom down here. And then once I'm in here, I can start changing values. So I'm going to set yes to on boot. Okay. Earlier I also turned off the nm_controlled to no. I set this to no, but I did end up setting it back to yes, so I'm going to leave that alone. And then of course make sure that your hardware address, your MAC address, is the same here as it is in here, right here. And if you're using another type of virtualization like Proxmox or whatever the MAC address is in your configuration for that, same as VMware, if you need to make sure that those are set correctly, that they're the same. Otherwise you're going to have problems, things aren't going to work right. So now that I've set this, I'm going to go ahead and save it. I hit escape one time, then I do a shift and then the colon, and then I'm going to write the file by hitting W, and then I'm going to hit Q to quit, and then my file should be written. Okay, if I go back into it by hitting the up arrow key, we will see that on boot is set to yes. Of course, if you mess something up, you can always do a shift colon and then hit a Q and an exclamation point, and it will quit right out for you. So if you do mess up, say you mistype something, whatever, and you're like, oh man, I just messed all this up, you can get back out that way. Alright, now what we need to do is reload the interface. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in, the easiest way to do this without rebooting the machine, the virtual machine, is to type in service network restart. And look there, there's our Ethernet 0, and it should come up properly. Alright, looks like it did. Type in ifconfig to see your Ethernet. There it is, 192.168.4.34. Let's try to ping my desktop, 192.168.4.110. And we can ping my desktop, which is excellent. And can we ping Google? We can. Now to get out of the ping, you hit Control and C, and that will break it so that you can go out of it. So I can ping out to the outside world. Now let's see if I can ping from my desktop into the virtual machine. And I am .34, so let's see if I can ping to it. Since we set it up as bridged, I should be able to ping to it. And looky there, we can ping directly to the virtual machine. Now if I wanted this virtual machine to be accessible to the internet, I could set up ports on my DDWRT router, or of course any router that you would have in your enterprise or whatever, and then I would be able, of course, to access this virtual machine like it was a real machine and add services like, you know, Apache, other things like that, you know, all using Yum package management, which is really neat. But that'll be probably another tutorial. So you now have a system. I'm going to go ahead and just shut it down. So I'm going to issue the shutdown command again, -H, and now it will shut down the virtual machine. And it should kick us back out. And there it is. It's all set. Alright, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and have yourself a wonderful day.